computer. Okay.
Hi, everybody. This is Ted from California Animal Networkers and my friend Lance. Say hi.
Hi.
And Lance is one of my lifelong best friends, but more importantly, he is, what are you, a senior executive of some type at Toastmasters International?
A distinguished Toastmaster and past district director and 20-year member of this organization. I'll tell you more about it in a minute.
Well, as many of you know, I have been doing animal rescue since at least 10 years. I don't own an animal rescue, but I consider myself a networker. The distinction wasn't around when I started. Back then, I would go into animal pounds and take videos of animals in their kennels. That was unheard of. People would talk about, aren't you afraid of being arrested, getting kicked out of the pound? And I'm like, no, this is the future. Video on the internet, video on Facebook, live video, most importantly. Well, 10 years later, we all know how video on the internet has changed everything. And with COVID changing animal rescue, I was talking to Lance how within the animal networking community, animal rescue community, so much of us come together to save animals, but it usually ends there. I have friends all over the world that share interests with me and my animal rescue activity, but it kind of stops on networking the animals to get out of the pound. What Lance is proposing to me and helping us start is, I guess, the world's first Toastmasters club focused on group members that have a love for animal rescue, networking, and possibly just animal advocacy in their heart. We all have something to say. We've all learned a lot about animal rescue, and we have a lot to share and grow together as a group. Hopefully what will happen is we'll start one Toastmasters club, and then as groups find the ability and the inspiration to start Toastmasters in their towns, within their animal rescue communities, we could actually start a whole revolution on how to become activated as advocates for animals. Why is this important to me personally? I get nervous when I go to city council meetings and I try to be the voice for the voiceless. And Lance has been telling me about Toastmasters for years, and I was always like, it's not really for me. But now that we, those that are the voice of the voiceless, have platforms that speak for animals in need, I believe that together we can improve our dialogue, our public speaking abilities that can save millions of lives around the world. So for me now, I can see that people are on the internet, we're talking, the possibilities exist where in my mind, I'm always afraid of, like, if I go to a meeting, how am I saving animals? I'm always scared for that compromise. But Lance is proposing something, and I'm going to let him tell you about how we as a community can get together online and then make a difference. Lance?
Thanks, Ted. That's a great introduction. But first, there are probably a lot of people who are receiving this message, this video, who don't know much about Toastmasters. I want to take a minute and provide the context. Toastmasters is a 92-year-old worldwide organization of small neighborhood clubs, usually about 20 or 30 people. Used to be clubs were in specific geographic neighborhoods, but within the past year with COVID and the rise of Zoom, people can belong to clubs and be anywhere. And what people do in these small clubs is practice and get training in both public speaking skills, and that's everything from informing to persuading to entertaining, and organizational leadership. So there's training in how to put together a small organization, which could be very valuable for many people in the animal rescue community. I know there are probably many organizations already, but there's no organized, that I know of, no organized training program for organizational leadership. but it's mainly public speaking and developing the confidence and the ability and the skills to speak out. So there are, just for the background, there are about 1/3 people who are members of Toastmasters in about 17,000 clubs around the world, 7 countries. I myself am here in the San Fernando Valley, and we have about 200 clubs in, I'm sorry, about 100 clubs in the Valley, another 200 in the rest of Los Angeles. And we meet, Toastmasters clubs typically meet twice a month, although that's up to the club. Some meet once a week, some meet once a month. And people give speeches that they have developed and get evaluated by other members of Toastmasters Club in those speeches. And we train you in evaluation and critiquing and coaching as well. So each club is independent. It runs itself. It makes most of its own decisions, but there are some overall rules of Toastmasters that need to apply. Principally, at every club, there have to be 3 elements. Some people, 2 or 3 usually, have to give speeches. Those speeches have to be evaluated or coached or critiqued by other Toastmasters. And then there's a period called table topics, which is impromptu speaking, where you're given a topic and you have to speak on it for 1 to 2 minutes, whether you know anything about it or not. And that's really fabulous experience for everything from interjecting your thoughts and ideas at a cocktail party conversation to answering questions at a job interview. There are just a lot of times when we have to speak off the cuff, intelligently, profoundly, and often convincingly. So here's the idea now, back to what Ted said. If we could get, it takes 20 people to start officially charter a Toastmasters club. If we could get 20 people who are interested in chartering a club, and there's minimal dues, it's $45 per person every 6 months, plus when you first join, a one-time $20 fee. Okay, so that gets a club chartered, and then you start meeting. You're provided a mentor by Toastmasters who will help you understand how to do things like choose your officers, arrange an agenda for meetings, and make things go smoothly and efficiently. That's all part of the leadership training, which is really great. Now, what kind of speeches would happen? Well, this is where Ted can help me on this, but there's so many, it seems to me there's so many things. Like, as Ted mentioned, you do have to speak at government organizations, city councils, in front of Lions or Rotary clubs, other groups, all kinds of opportunities. And do you have, the question is, do you have the skills to be powerful, impactful, persuasive, inspirational? Because those are the things that you need when you're speaking about animals. So the speeches in these clubs would be literally anything you want. Toastmasters never tells you what the topic is for speaking. However, they do provide certain lessons they want you to practice during each speech. It might be use of voice, use of movement and gesture and expression. It might be how to begin a speech powerfully and effectively, how to end a speech, how to have a clear central main idea that people remember. There are all of these different things that Toastmasters asks you to practice, but you always pick the topic. So the topic could be about your pets. It could be about your experiences with animal rescue. It could be about other people's pets and experiences. It literally could be anything that your club chooses to allow. The only thing Toastmasters recommends worldwide is that people stay away from religion and sex and
Politics.
Yeah. And, a club could organize on that basis and speak on those things, but generally that gets divisive. But if everyone in a club has the same interests and the same passion and the kind of passion that Ted has for animal rescue, I would think this could be awesome. Once we get one club started and get 20, 25, maybe 30 members going, if other people want to participate, they can form their own club. Well, clubs try not to have more than about 30 or 35 members, because then there aren't enough opportunities in the course of a year for you to speak. So if a club has 30 members and 20 or 25 show up for a particular meeting, there's plenty of people to have an effective meeting and enough people to give speeches and do the evaluations. And
Let me interrupt.
yeah,
So, couple questions.
Yeah.
Like, you've been telling me about Toastmasters for years, and I would always say, well, if they had it on the internet, if we could do video, and you'd say, oh, that's so far in the future. How is COVID impacting Toastmasters?
well, that's a great question. First of all, at the moment, virtually all clubs around the world are meeting online. We moved from meeting in person in locations. My main club met at a restaurant near here, to meeting online, which means I meet once a week. I meet with a club in Pune, India, because I got to be a mentor for that club. I meet periodically with a club in Chengdu, China, and another one in Budapest, Hungary. And I just gave a speech at a club in Bahrain. So that, number one, is it's moved online. And because it's moved online, it's made it a lot easier to use visuals. So for example, many of my speeches and my presentations, I put together little PowerPoints or have little videos that I can show. That it's much easier. You don't have to set up equipment in a strange location every time you want to do something like that. So it's become quite visual in that regard.
Now, as we all enter I just saw for the first time today, our gym reopened here in Whittier, California.
Yeah.
I'm either in Big Bear, Whittier, or downtown LA. But as I'm driving home today from showing a property in downtown LA, I noticed our gym was open. And I'm like, we're coming back. How much time can someone expect? We're joining a new club. We're getting back into our new lives, I guess, after COVID. How much time could the average participant expect to spend with Toastmasters?
Well, here's what's oddly enough, what's happened is at first, a year ago, Toastmasters was nervous about this online business, about using Zoom for meetings. But it's proved very, very popular, and it's enabled people not to have to get up and drive for 20 minutes or a half an hour to a meeting and then drive home late at night afterwards. It's made it easier for people to attend meetings. While you are not able to get practice standing in front of an audience, you do get practice using Zoom, which is now going to be a much more popular way of meeting. But the other answer to your question, Ted, is that we've already begun, people in Toastmasters and at the headquarters, which is in Colorado, people have begun to look at what's going to happen when we do return to normal. And the answer to that is many clubs will be hybrid. So someone will have a laptop and a monitor, or even a larger screen and a monitor at the location, and people can call in and give speeches, see speeches, hear the evaluations and the critiques online. So it's what's called hybrid clubs, and they're going to be starting probably fairly soon. But there are many people who believe that, especially in America, that the lingering effects of COVID-19 and the variants are going to keep people from wanting to meet so much in public. So I think a significant number of clubs will stay online. Now, a club like the one you and I are talking about, which could draw on people from a larger geographical area. For example, I know you have friends in Whittier. I know you have animal rescue friends in Big Bear and here in Los Angeles. Clubs like that might not want to meet in person, or maybe meet in person once every 6 months at a restaurant or something. I know you've had experience organizing events like that. Yeah, dinner clubs.
So let me ask you, I have a feeling most of the people watching this video are not going to want to participate in an animal rescue Toastmasters club, but they might have a business or another community organization, a church group that they might be interested in starting on their own. What would they do?
Well, the best thing, the easiest thing right now in this context, there are two things to do. One, you could call me, and I'll provide my phone number in a minute, or my email address, and I can put you in touch with somebody in your geographical area, or I can provide you with the information that you need. I have experience as a past director of our district in how to start clubs up, and I can advise on that very well. Many churches, organizations, businesses, political, governmental organizations have their own Toastmasters clubs. And many are just community clubs. My main club is Studio City Toastmasters. It just draws on people who live in the area around Studio City here in the San Fernando Valley. I would
So
say
what is your-
half the clubs are like that.
What is your motivation? I mean, one of the reasons I always hesitate getting involved in something you're doing is I have a story in my head that Lance gets something out of this. What does he get? A toaster? Does he get money? What does Lance get?
A very fair question. Ted, my first job out of college in 1966, yeah, a long time ago, was teaching public speaking in college. And off and on over the past 52 years, I've been involved one way or another in teaching public speaking. About 20 years ago, I knew about Toastmasters, but I figured I knew it all, didn't need it. A friend took me to a Toastmasters meeting, and I was smart enough to instantly see that the ability to give speeches on a regular basis, have to develop them and practice creating and building speeches and practicing them in public and receiving critiques and professional advice from Toastmasters would be very valuable. So I joined on the spot, and I've been a member ever since. I've probably given 200 or 300 speeches. Now I regularly am invited by Lions clubs and Rotary clubs and service organizations to talk on some of the topics that I've developed over the years. They don't pay, but they do provide free lunch when they met in person. Now they don't meet in
Well, they
person.
keep you, you know, one of the things I am impressed with is it keeps you involved in the community. It keeps your mind working, and you enjoy it.
Oh, I do. And that's what I get out of it. Plus, at a certain point, 6 or 7 years ago, I moved heavily into the volunteer aspect of it for the organization. And I took on a 4-year commitment to be a leader in our district, which is 100 clubs, 2,000 people. And I ended up being district director for a year, which is like a full-time job, but as a volunteer. I'm retired, I can do that. But that's not really, for most people, what Toastmasters is about. Toastmasters is about developing the ability of self-confidence and skills to be able to speak powerfully and make a difference in the world. And if that's what you want, and if that's what you're interested in, this would be great for you. And back to what you said before, if the animal rescue concept doesn't interest you, but your club or your church or your organization or your community is interested, start that kind of club. And you can still give speeches on animal rescue because your speech topics are always up to you.
Now, one of the things I'm always impressed with the people you connect with is some of the success stories of what people have gotten out of their participation in Toastmasters. Can you tell me some of the things that just pop in your head real quick about, you know, let's call them miracles of Toastmasters, things that have come out of the impossible?
Many, many different levels. I have a friend, for example, who stutters and who was afraid to and hardly ever spoke in public because he stutters. He is a city government employee here in Los Angeles, and he's been a Toastmaster for, I think, 9 or 10 years. He has gotten the ability to speak, getting past his stutter. It hasn't cured his stutters, but it's enabled him to moderate it and to have the self-confidence to get up and speak. And he's risen to the head of his department in the homeless services area. That's one example. But I could tell you many people who have built their business based on their ability to speak their business to people powerfully and effectively and convince them, whether it's an entrepreneurial thing. You know, I've several people who've written books. One of the people in our Toastmasters group here has, in 5 years, I think, has moved from being a very shy person with some emotional disabilities with people to giving a speech to the United Nations on the subject of disabled people. And he's achieved the level of accredited speaker. Of the 1/3 of a million Toastmasters in the world, there are only about 100 who Toastmasters has acknowledged and given the title accredited speaker, which means they actually earn a good deal of money speaking. And Tom has done that. Many people take some of the subjects of their speeches and write books based on, started with a 7-minute speech. They developed to a 20-minute speech. Then they developed to a book. Then they use the book to get more speaking opportunities and eventually to get paid. So there's so many ways, but the biggest thing is just the self-confidence that it gives a person who normally in a group would shut up or in a business meeting would be reluctant to speak. Gives them the self-confidence and ability to speak, organize their thoughts, and be powerful and effective.
Now, what if somebody's sitting there watching this, they're thinking, oh, this sounds perfect for me, but I'm going to make a fool of myself. And the last thing I want to do is join something where people are going to laugh at me or say bad things about me. I'm already emotional wreck with COVID going on. How do you handle people that, stick their foot in their mouth all the time?
I got a couple answers for that, and I think everyone will appreciate this. First of all, we don't force you to do anything. You join a club and you speak when you are ready to start speaking. There's some little things like leading the Pledge of Allegiance if the club does that, or giving a little inspirational talk that we might assign to early people. But you don't have to give your first speech right away. You wait until you are ready. That's number one. Number two is you are speaking among friends. Everybody in the Toastmasters community is supportive of each other. And so no one would ever ridicule or embarrass you. That's one of the main rules. The speech evaluations, which are given after each speaker, have what we call the sandwich method. We always start with finding something positive about the speaker. If the speech wasn't so good, if they were hesitant, if there were problems, we find something good to say that makes them A, feel good, and B, ability to hear a couple of suggestions for improvement. And then we close saying something like, we really look forward to your next speech. Very quickly, people develop to get past that feeling that you described and develop self-confidence. It's one of the big pluses.
What if I say something on a Zoom Toastmasters that I regret later having said? I mean, what if I tell a story? I mean, is this confidential? Do I need to be worried about the things I say?
Well, the Toastmasters meetings are, first of all, they're attended by members of the club who have already agreed. One of the agreements that you sign at the beginning is to be mutually supportive of each other. And so that's number one. But number two, there are some guests at meetings sometimes. And I think this gives you the opportunity to have mentoring from another club member. Every new member is assigned a mentor. Now, when we start a new club, we have 1 or 2 mentors for everybody. But very quickly, some people develop the skills to mentor others, right? And by the way, I have already have a couple of experienced Toastmasters who are interested in this animal rescue club. And, I was thinking, I've been calling it in my head RescueMasters, but you gave me an idea earlier, and that is Voices for the Voiceless Toastmasters. That could be but clubs pick their own name. They pick their own day and time to meet. They pick their own officers. They run themselves. And all of this Toastmasters provide coaching on.
Yeah, that Voice of the Voiceless was a gift from a professor from college who told me to start an animal rescue called The Voice for the Voiceless.
Well, who knows?
So,
it could end up,
got to give props to the right people.
If we can create a Toastmasters club, they would pick their own name, and I'm sure there would be a lot of suggestions. Let me.
What does a person do? So now we've watched this for 26 minutes, and they're like, all right, let's get this going. I'm interested. Tell me more. What do they do next?
They should contact me, and I'm going to give you my phone number and my email address. Get ready to write it down, and just email me or call me, and I will put you on a list. And when we have a sufficient number of people, probably 17 or 18 people who are interested, we will have an organizational Zoom meeting. And we will start with that. We may meet several times in an unofficial capacity before we pay dues and before we get started to have people who find out about it and want it to happen, to bring in other people, so we get to that magic number of 20. Okay. So my phone number, if you're ready, is 213-321-2104. And my email is very simple, LanceCoach at AOL.com. I have that email because I'm also a life coach and a communications coach. And I present workshops for various clubs on various aspects of public speaking as part of giving.
You need to get LanceCoach at gmail.com.
Yeah.
Just telling you.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you. First of all, I have dropped the ball on this because I don't want to fail at it. And you have been a stand for, I know you have a cat, or you had a cat.
Oh, she's still here.
What's her name?
Beatrix.
Beatrix.
I've had her for 20 years now.
Yeah, I know she's been around for a long time. But thanks for being a stand for her and for the stand of, the 3 million animals that die in animal shelters every year.
Yeah.
I'm going to create right now in this moment the possibility that as people join us in this, we can take that number down to 0. I know that sounds impossible, but why do this if we can't live from the possibility of 0?
I honestly think that a Toastmasters club like this as a start, and eventually a number of them in this country and around the world, could make a huge difference. And I really want to acknowledge and thank you for inviting me to have this conversation with you and for sending this message out to, I know, the network of people that you have. I will also use it with the Toastmasters in our district and other districts I'm familiar with. And we'll see if we can get those 20 people in rapid order. Thank you very much, Ted.
And folks watching this, I want to invite you to like, comment, and share the video. It may not be something you want to do, but by sharing it with the groups or on your page, you might just find that person who's sitting there right now who wants to be activated, who wants to, to do more. Maybe they haven't found their niche in animal rescue or animal networking. Maybe they've never thought anything's more possible than owning a pet. And maybe you can just share this or like it or comment on it as a possibility for people to start their own Toastmasters groups that have nothing to do with animal rescue. Right now we're in a world where we need unlimited possibility so that people can get off the couches and start being activated again in life. And this is a global happening. So we have a chance to do something brand new. We can wipe away the way things were because we have a new chance to create things in a brand new way. And that's what's motivating me to get involved in Toastmasters and animal rescue, combining my interest for the first time with my passion for public speaking. So
I want to let people in on a little secret. A few years back, Ted was a member of a Toastmasters club that I was starting. And so he's had a year's experience and practice, and look at the power that he has as a speaker. Let me give you my phone number once again. It's my email is LanceCoach@AOL.com. And the phone number is 213-321-2104. Thank you again, Ted.
Thanks, Lance.